But his fury was written all over his face for anyone who cared to look, and trust me, they were all looking. "I'm sorry," I whispered back, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a work emergency, and I got here as fast as I could. But my explanation felt pathetic even to my own ears. In this world of inherited wealth and endless leisure time, the concept of having to work for a living was as foreign as speaking Martian. These people had never missed anything important because of a job. They had people to handle those inconveniences for them. That's when his mother, Cordelia, glided over in her $1,000 shoes and her mask of perfect politeness. She was the kind of woman who could smile at you while simultaneously planning your social execution. "Delilah, darling," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "How wonderful that you could finally join us. We were starting to worry that something terrible had happened," the emphasis on finally cut through me like a blade wrapped in silk. She kissed the air next to my cheek, not actually touching me of course, and I caught a whiff of her expensive perfume mixed with something that smelled distinctly like disapproval. The grandfather, the man we were supposedly celebrating, sat in his wheelchair in the center of the room like a king on his throne. He was ancient, probably older than some of the antiques decorating the walls, but his eyes were sharp as diamonds. When our gazes met, something flickered across his face. Not anger like the others, but something I couldn't quite identify. It was almost like he was studying me, trying to figure out a puzzle that the rest of his family couldn't see. For the next hour, I tried to blend into the background, nursing a glass of champagne that probably cost more than my weekly groceries, and making small talk with relatives who spoke to me like I was an exotic pet that Tristan had brought home for entertainment. Every conversation felt like a test I was failing. Every laugh seemed to be at my expense, and through it all, Tristan's anger simmered just beneath the surface, like a pot about to boil over. The explosion came during dinner. We were seated at this massive mahogany table that could have doubled as a landing strip, with enough silverware at each place setting to stock a restaurant. The conversation had turned to family traditions and punctuality because apparently, being on time was a genetic trait, passed down through generations of superior breeding. That's when Tristan's uncle made some comment about people who don't respect other people's time, and I felt every eye in the room turn toward me again. "You know what?" Tristan suddenly stood up, his chair scraping against the marble floor like nails on a chalkboard. His face was flushed red, and his hands were trembling with rage. "I can't do this anymore. I cannot continue to be embarrassed by someone who clearly doesn't understand the importance of family and commitment." The room went dead silent. Even the staff members serving dinner froze in place, like they were playing the world's most uncomfortable game of statue. My heart started pounding so hard, I was sure everyone could hear it echoing off the vaulted ceilings. "Tristan, please," I whispered, standing up slowly, trying to diffuse the situation before it exploded completely. What happened next changed everything. And I mean everything. Tristan's voice boomed across that dining room like thunder before a storm. "You are selfish, inconsiderate, and frankly an embarrassment to this family." Each word hit me like a physical blow. But I stood there frozen, watching this man I thought I loved transform into someone I didn't recognize. 20 minutes, Delilah. 20 minutes of our time that you stole because your little job was more important than my family. The room was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop on those marble floors. 30 pairs of eyes watched, like this was dinner theater, and I was the tragic protagonist in their evening's entertainment. That's when he raised his hand, and for a split second I thought he was going to gesture dramatically, like he always did when he got passionate about something. But then his palm connected with my cheek, with a crack that echoed through that massive room. Like a gunshot, the sting was immediate and sharp. But the humiliation burned deeper than any physical pain ever could. My hand flew to my face instinctively, and I could feel the heat radiating from where he'd hit me. The silence that followed was deafening. Not the kind of shocked silence you'd expect from decent people witnessing domestic violence, but the uncomfortable quiet of people who weren't sure if they should applaud or look away. And you know what the worst part was? His mother actually nodded in approval. Cordelia sitting there in her pearls and her privilege. Looked at.